Have you ever been confronted with the reality of your mistakes? Like the kid who got made fun of in high school coming back to the 10-year reunion as Dan Bilzerian. Sure, everyone liked his older brother, but nobody believed that he could live up to that hype. Such is the case with this new Supra, a car that lit the internet on fire and spawned endless and frankly unfair comparisons to the C8 Corvette and its predecessor, the 4th generation A80 Supra.
I was one of the many people who laughed at the Supra when it came out. It seemed underpowered, and the styling was nothing like the beautiful FT1 concept car that we were all promised. There were also the inevitable digs taken at the Supra's donor car platform, the BMW Z4, which is sort of a lumpy, unattractive potato. So it seemed as if the Supra was going to be little more than a legendary name affixed to a sort of cobbled together marketing exercise. But I was wrong. We all were, really. The Supra isn't just a good sports car. It's a great one. And in a world where all cars are giving way to SUVs, the Supra shouldn't be bashed for what it isn't. It should be praised for what it is. What's going on, everyone? Jax here, and today I have a fantastically exciting video to bring you, a little different from some of the family cars and SUVs that I sometimes test. This is the 2020 Toyota Supra. I refuse to say GR Supra or whatever, Gazoo Racing. It's just the Supra. I do want to point out that this is actually a 2020 model year Supra, which means it has the 335 horsepower, 3-liter turbocharged straight 6 engine making 365 pound-feet of torque. The 2021 model year Supra ups the horsepower to 382, which seems like a healthy increase. But in most tests by various car magazines, YouTube personalities, whatever, the Supra doesn't seem to be posting really any greater numbers than it already did. Mainly because torque is relatively unchanged, and it's very likely that the engine was underrated from the start. So in any case, no matter how much power it's making, the Supra is fast. Really fast. And when you combine that along with some of the theatrics of the driving experience, you begin to understand that there's a lot more to this car than you might have expected. I know the styling isn't for everyone, and I certainly don't disagree. The Supra is easily the most stylistically polarizing car that I've ever driven and ever tested. From some angles, it looks muscular and substantial and aggressive, and from other angles, it just looks flat out ridiculous. And I think we can all agree that the fake vents are absolutely atrocious and garish. Nobody likes the fake vents, Toyota. Nobody. I don't care if they can be made functional or not, or some aftermarket conversion, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Why don't you just make them functional from the factory so they don't look so awful? But over the past week that I spent with the Supra, I found myself enjoying the styling more than I did criticizing it. And it certainly gets noticed on the street. To be quite honest with you, this is actually the first Supra that I've seen in the wild, which is weird and ironic since I'm the one testing it, but I haven't seen another Supra on the road. And from the looks of most people that I encountered, this is the first one that they've seen on the road as well. I got about as many thumbs up cell phone pics and questions driving this as I did when I had the NSX. In fact, I pulled into the grocery store one day and a kid literally stopped his car, leaned out the window, and then tracked me with his cell phone all the way past him and then gave me a big grin and a thumbs up. I didn't get that in the NSX. The internet might be dissing the Supra, but real life seems to tell a different story. But the styling is something that you can see for yourself. You don't need me to tell you about the styling. You've probably already made up your mind about the styling, other than the fact, like I said, that it could grow on you over time. But what you really want to know is, what is the Supra like to drive? So here we are in the 2020 Toyota Supra. Already have it in sport mode before we turn on the handling road so you can listen to the engine in all of its glory. And oh, what an engine this is. This turbocharged straight six engine just sings. Absolutely sings. Listen to that noise. Taking the first bend in the handling road, which is absolutely nothing to this car. It has a surprisingly compliant ride. It's busy. I mean, we are in sport mode and the adaptive dampers are doing their best to keep us glued to the road. I'm so busy listening to that engine, I don't care. I don't care what's happening in the car right now. I don't care how bumpy it is right now because I am so utterly enthralled with this engine. That's the big bump. It's not even that bad, to be honest with you. The car feels light. It's a bit skittish, I will admit, and I know that in some at the limit testing, some people have reported that it's a bit skittish, and supposedly for 2021, they revised the dampers to sort of fix that problem, to make it feel a little bit more buttoned down. There is a sense of lightness, though, that comes with that. It feels like a light car. It is kind of a light car. It's less than 3,400 pounds. Oh, intoxicating and so smooth. There is a smoothness to a straight six turbocharged engine that you don't even really feel the turbocharged nature of the engine. It just builds and builds and builds. 335 horsepower in this 2020 model, it feels more powerful. It really does feel more powerful. I know in 2021 they upped it to like 382 or something like that. It was probably underrated from the start, but oh my gosh, what a power plant this car has. It is so connected to the feel of this car. It's so connected to the personality of this car. And everything about this sort of is dedicated to that personality of driving, of sort of building excitement, of theater. I mean, look at this driving position. I'm 6.5 feet tall, and this driving position is nearly perfect for me. My legs have just the right amount of bend. The seat is supportive. My arms are nicely positioned on the steering wheel. I can go lock to lock with very little effort. This car is meant to be driven. And you just want to drive. You just want to wind it out over and over again. The steering is quite good. There's a little bit of numbness on center, but it is generally very accurate. The steering wheel itself, I like the way it feels. It's not as thick as some BMW rims. It's sort of a thinner spoke. You got some nice hand grips here. Perfect positioning of the paddle shifters. I will say it's not the best looking steering wheel in any car, but it is very functional and feels good in the hands. Oh, those downshifts are a riot. That's the other thing, is that in sport mode, this ZF 8-speed automatic is aces. It is absolute aces. You would think you were driving a dual clutch. It's so fast on the upshift and it punches you on the downshift in this way that just feels so alive and intense. That's a great way to describe it. You feel alive when you're driving this car. Everything about it is experiential. It's all about the sensory experience of driving. I am so blown away by how good it feels to drive this car. Everything about the Supra is here to sort of goad you on to experimenting and experiencing this car in a more full capacity. I don't know how to describe it. The engine, the way it builds power, the steering, the brakes feel really good when you're driving aggressively. The Michelin Pilot Super Sport tires are just a revelation. I've said it before, I didn't understand fully what all the fuss was about in regards to Michelin until I started testing cars regularly, and cars equipped with Michelin tires. I mean, these tires are just unbelievable. And they're just the Super Sports, They're not the Pilot 4s, they're not the Cup 2s, but they've got loads of grip. I almost feel like the skittishness of the car might work against them in certain situations, which seems to be supported by people who have had these cars on tracks and the lap times and whatnot. I would be interested to see if the 2021 with the revised chassis tuning can put the power down a little bit more, but I kind of like the lightness of this car. It just feels joyous. It just feels exciting. Engine note time. want excitement, if you want a car that rewards you with an experience that you just don't get in cars anymore. I honestly feel a little bit guilty that I mocked the Supra when it came out. I mean, I'm a Corvette guy, I'm a Corvette fan, I like Corvette, so of course you see this sort of competitive car and you're gonna mock it, but my God, this car is so much fun. Every time. People ask, is this a worthy successor to the Supra name, to the, you know, whatever it is, the A80. I'm not a Supra fanboy. The A80 4th gen, the one in the 90s, we'll just call it that. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. The Fast and Furious Supra, yada, yada, yada. Is this a worthy successor to that car, to that famous, legendary car? I don't know if you know this, but like that car was not a purebred sports car. It was more of a Japanese muscle car, a sledgehammer. And by today's standards, it wasn't even all that fast. This car is an actual sports car. This car has a gravitas that car didn't have. This car has a sort of, I don't even know, testosterone injected aggression that car didn't have. That car was a great car to pine after as a guy who grew up driving cars in the 90s, but this car is an actual thoroughbred sports car that you could drive to a track, blast around the track, have an amazing time with a bit of theater, with that popping and crackling exhaust, and then drive home again. And theoretically, because it says Toyota on it, it should always, you know, not break. Allegedly, hopefully. It just knifes through these corners. Those downshifts from that 8-speed automatic are pure theater. There is no reason for them to be as awesome as they are. They're just awesome to be awesome. And that's kind of the Supra in a nutshell, really. It's just awesome to be awesome. Oh man, I did not expect to feel this way about this car. Hugely surprising in all the best ways, in all the most exciting ways. Well done, Supra. I respect you. You have earned my respect, and I shall no longer make fun of you. Yeah, on some small pavement undulations, the suspension almost jumps a little bit, almost hops a little bit. I could see how in certain situations that would be a bit of a disconcerting feeling, to be honest with you. The benefit is that it makes the car feel more alive and lively in your hands. The downside is that it's probably not the best sort of characteristic for 10/10ths driving. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm going much beyond 7/10ths, and it could be a little playful. A little too much. The only unbecoming characteristic of the driving experience in the Supra is actually not the sporty, aggressive driving. It's sort of in daily driving. For some reason, the ZF 8-speed is telepathic in its responses when you're caning it, but in sort of stop-and-go traffic, as you approach a stop and then you set off again, if you don't come to a full stop, there's almost this hesitation, like it's not sure. It's like, oh, are you not going fast? I thought you wanted to go fast. And it sort of balks a little bit, like what are you trying to do driving this car normally? It's not like a deal breaker or anything. It's just kind of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Annoying. Just want to wind it out just to wind it out for no other reason. You just want to rev this engine all the time. Just it's so fun. It's so fun. Oh yes, those crackles. Oh, and I have it in my Corvette. I don't even know why it's so satisfying in this car, but it is. Inside, you'll find amazing seats, excellent technology, and a solid 12-speaker JBL audio system. The materials are generally really good, with actual carbon fiber surrounding the gear lever and the iDrive controller. And the leather on the seats and the steering wheel feels nice and price appropriate. The steering wheel itself is nicely sized, has a wonderful tactile feel, perfectly placed shift paddles, but it doesn't look particularly special in any way. This is a bit of a disappointment. The nearly 9-inch wide digital display on the dash is crystal clear, as is the digital gauge cluster and the heads-up display. In fact, the heads-up display is one of the crispest and clearest heads-up displays that I've ever seen, even though it doesn't provide you with a ton of information. And there's plenty of room for someone my size to achieve a comfortable and nearly perfect driving position. The trunk is even decently large. So, what are the drawbacks? Well, if it's parked out in the sun, I don't know if it's the materials expanding and contracting, but the interior in here is extremely creaky and rattly. I know I say this from time to time that test cars can be forgiven for some of these things because they lead hard lives, but I don't think that's the case with this interior. It rattles and creaks over pretty much any road surface. It seems unbecoming of a car that costs over $56,000. The infotainment system is comprehensive. iDrive is pretty good, but it sometimes does some weird things like randomly switching screens or connecting and disconnecting from Apple CarPlay whenever it feels like it. It has wireless Apple CarPlay when it works. The digital gauge cluster is quite large, but very large parts of it go almost entirely unused for reasons, except to display like pictures or warnings. And while this car has the driver assistance package, so it has, radar cruise control, lane keep assist, and surround view sensors, not cameras, but sensors. The lane keep assist is hyper aggressive, as is the auto start stop feature, which is super annoying and makes coming to a complete stop smoothly like nearly impossible. So you're gonna want to disable that because it's really irritating.
This is the story of the Supra. It's an excellent car that doesn't deserve much of the hate that gets thrown its way, but it has some very obvious flaws that detract from its otherwise stellar performance and driving experience. Everything about this car comes with a qualifying but following it. The styling looks great, but from some angles it's weird and adorned with fake vents. The interior is functionally perfect from a driving standpoint, but there are some quality and electronics concerns and irritations. And the one with the 3-liter turbocharged engine starts around $53,000, but that puts it square in the sights of another dynamic star.
A comparably equipped Chevy Camaro SS1LE is $51,000, and it comes with a 455 horsepower V8 engine and a pavement-crunching 455 pound-feet of torque. It's often praised for its dynamic ability despite having a lackluster interior and poor outward visibility. Sound familiar? I know what you're saying. Nobody who wants to buy a Supra wants to buy a Camaro, especially because the current Camaro has such polarizing exterior styling. Oh, wait. In Car and Driver's Lightning Lap competition, the Supra ran a 3:01 at Virginia International Raceway, which was a good time, and Car and Driver praised it for its sort of vibrant handling and overachieving powertrain. But there's that word again. In 2016, a 1LE Camaro ran it in 2:55, 6 seconds ahead of the Supra's time. And I don't think I need to tell you that 6 seconds is an eternity in racing. So should you buy a Toyota Supra? Well, if you like this Supra, then you like this Supra. Nothing I say here is going to make that much of a difference. But let me give you a reason why you should, and then I'll give you a reason why you shouldn't. While I had the Supra this week, it grew on me. I thoroughly enjoyed driving it. As you saw from the in-car footage, it is an absolute riot to drive. It is hugely fun, and as a sports car, it is simply superb. I actually think it looks pretty good in this red color with the black trim, and the gorgeous 19-inch wheels don't hurt. And I'm absolutely smitten with its sense of occasion and theater. This Supra is fun. It wants to be fun. It kind of invites more fun into the driving experience, and I love that about it. The crackling of the exhaust, the sort of hyper-aggressive shifts in sport mode, and the lightness and playfulness of the chassis are all hugely endearing to anyone who enjoys sports cars or the act of driving. It's an experiential car. It's one that rewards you with sort of sensory satisfaction as opposed to outright domination of metrics and statistics and figures. For those reasons, you should buy a Supra. It's not a BMW in disguise. It's an exciting sports car and a worthy standard bearer of the legendary name. But you can get more for your money. Both the Camaro SS 1LE and the Mustang GT with the PP2 handling package are faster, and they cost about the same or less than the Supra. They have their own takes on the sort of theatrics of driving, they both have lackluster interiors, and they both have equally legendary names. If your only concern is outright handling and speed, both of them are probably better options than the Toyota Supra. But at the end of the day, what do you want?
To be quite honest, I'm saying goodbye to the Supra this week with a bit of reluctance. I never got to take it up to the mountains for a proper thrashing. I feel as though there was more to explore and more to find out about it. It nudges you to have fun, to enjoy yourself, to revel in the experience of driving in a way that's increasingly less common in cars of today. But most of all, the Supra is a pure sports car. 2 seats, a phenomenal engine, rear-wheel drive, and an exhaust note to die for. And because Toyota decided to bring back the Supra, there's one more sports car in the world today than there was a year ago. For that reason, above all else, the Supra has my respect.
Oh, trying to get clean audio. There's nerds skateboarding on a path behind me. It's not like they're interested in this. Biggity, piggity, poppity, poppity, bangity, bangity. Hello, is it me you're looking for? Yes, it is. I am looking for this. Every day, all day. Hello, is it me you're looking for? Yes, it is. I am Supra. Oh, hey, dude who cuts his grass and leaves all the clippings in the road. No one likes you. It is also inevitable that when you're driving a car like the Toyota Supra that you will find the slowest people imaginable on backcountry roads. It's sort of like a mathematical principle, really. Got a sports car? Magnetize all the slowest people in the world directly to you. With Supra. If this guy goes right up here, it's like a conspiracy. 24 minutes of footage to sort through. That seems unpleasant.